So the year was 1987. I was 4 years old. It was Father's Day, and I was hanging out with my family. We were on our way. I don't really know where we wound up that day. My mom was taking us, my dad somewhere for Father's Day. Something more for him. But first, he wanted to do something for himself. Yes, he realized that his wife wants to take him somewhere and do something special for him, but he also thought, it's Father's Day. I want to do something for myself and something for my boys. I myself, at 4 years old, was already into vehicles, already passionate about cars, only because I own die-cast cars and I like to play with them. But on that Father's Day, when I was 4 years old, my father took us to Centennial Park. Small little park, not too far away from where I live now, where on Father's Day back then, they used to have car shows, where you get to see all kinds of classic cars, or exotics, or anything else from around our city. This is 1987, so the economy's not super great, but there were still some amazing cars there, and that's what drew me in. It started my passion with automobiles. It helped begin my love affair with the automobile. Diecast cars brought me in, and as I said in my Love Affair with Diecast Cars podcast previously, they brought me in. But going to my first car show with my father on Father's Day really ignited something within my soul and created a passion for myself and the automobile. So what brought you into the automobile industry, and what made you want to become part of it? That is something we'll take a look at today on the AutoLooks podcast. AutoLooks.net Autopod, streaming day or night, coming right at you, right here, right now. Welcome back to the AutoLooks podcast. I am your host, as always, the doctor to the automotive industry, Mr. Everett J, coming to you from our host site over on podbeam.com or on our host website, www.autolooks.net, where we have links to corporate websites from around the world, and we cover automotive designs from many, many different car companies around the world. At the end of the year, we do our famous AutoLooks A+ Awards coming up in January of every year. The AutoLooks A+ Design Award from around the world, where in 2022 year, we managed to hit over 560 cars rated to see who's number one in the world. Now, the AutoLooks.net podcast, today we're talking about what inspired you. What inspires all of us? We did cover this kind of, in the past with Lego Speed Champions, Lego Technic, Playmobil showcasing stuff, or for everybody, our main passion with the die-cast cars. Now, die-cast cars are something that a lot of us receive even by the age of 1 that kind of entices us into the automobile world. But not everybody is swayed by the automobiles of tiny, tiny little pieces of metal that we get from our parents. We're not swayed by toys. We're not swayed by anything else. Now, they all try it. Every year, Playmobil releases brand new products. They have Porsche. They have Volkswagen. Sitting on my shelf right next to me as I do this podcast right now is a Playmobil Back to the Future DeLorean, Toyota Tacoma from the Back to the Future movie, a Volkswagen Microbus, Volkswagen Beetle, and a Porsche Carrera S. Yes, I myself collect Playmobil versions of regular automobiles. I do love them. And in my office, if you've ever seen in any of our videos, my love affair with cars ranges expansively. I have my own artwork. I have toys from Speed Racer, big metal cars from Maisto, tiny little beings from Micro Machines, and yes, Hot Wheels, Matchbox, Majorette, and even Lego, all across my office. Now, what brought me in was that car show back in 1987. That brought me in. But unlike a lot of other people, what drives you in? What really entices you? For myself, that auto show started bringing me in. I loved playing with cars, but I wasn't too into the automotive world. It wasn't until that date that I wanted to learn more information and more about it. So I asked my dad. Now, this is something that will be coming up in, the book about myself, but it's, I started to learn. Maybe I could ask my dad about this. Now, for some people, this might be things that inspire you. My son had Hot Wheels. Now, I don't know if he's 100% into the automotive world. He likes playing racing games on top of many, many other types of games, mostly adventure and RPG, but he still uses racing games as a fun attribute to creating something else for him to do. He is into cars, but I've, myself being an automotive person, kind of, as you would say, kind of pushed him into it or brought him into it. Now, I do know that he does like the automobile industry, but this is only because I've taken him to the Toronto Auto Show, where he has seen these cars in life, been able to sit in them and see new concepts, new technology, and be able to go in and push buttons, turn steering wheels, and try the shifters out. He's been there and able to touch them. Now, my experience, my very first experience with that, didn't happen until my first year of college. Yes, my first year of college is the first time I went to an automobile show. Besides tiny little classic ones that do in your main towns, like I've been to Mopart Fest, I've been to Cruise Nights, I've been to Import Fest, and a bunch of other car shows, but never an actual brand brand new automobile show until my first year of college when I was 18. Now me, for an automobile guy, that was pretty extravagant seeing that, but it really didn't inspire me. Some people can get inspired from many different things. Parents, grandparents, having a grandfather with an amazing old car or grandmother that was into it. Having a famous person in your family who's into racing can sometimes inspire you. That's why a lot of great race car drivers have offspring who get into racing. Some of them aren't as good as their parents, as we've seen with the Pettys. Richard Petty was great. Kyle Petty wasn't so great, but Kyle Petty's son was an amazing driver until his life was cut short. Some drivers can kind of show through and show us that maybe they can hold a mantle to their father, like Michael Andretti, but unfortunately someone like him gets away with a little too much because of their name. But that then inspire them to get into cars? Or was it just that their parent was into cars already? For myself, that car show really dawned on me, really opened my eyes, really showed me the world around me, other than die-cast cars. But the biggest pinnacle point in my life was when my brother brought home a poster of a Lamborghini Countach. Seeing that in a major form on his wall, I looked at it with awe and went, I know what I want to do. I know my meaning in life. My meaning in life is cars. That poster showed it to me. Diecast brought me in. Auto shows inspired me, but that poster showed me that I should become part of this industry. Now, my father did have a Mustang, 1971 Mustang Grande, which we are unfortunately still in the works of trying to get built. That's a completely different story if you want to hear about it. Either wait until the book is out or even hit me up in the comments. I'll talk to you about it, and I can get into this more in depth. But as you can see from my standpoint, diecast cars, a family member, a classic car, and a poster all helped get me into this industry. But this industry also tries to get people into it themselves. Not everybody can be swayed so easily. Not everybody could sit on their grandfather or father's knee, sitting there watching a hockey game, being forced into that lifestyle of being immersed within that to make them part of it. I've given both of my kids a chance to see what they like. I bring them to the auto shows to show them the things that their father loves. They don't have to get into it. They don't have to do it. They don't even have to love it. It's just try it out at least once. And that's what I try and tell everybody. My daughter is yet to experience an automotive show, but going to classic car shows and cruise nights around here, she has kind of gotten into it. Like I said, everything can inspire you. What inspires you? What inspired you to get into automobiles? Was it a family member? Was it an auto show? Was it a car meet? Was it television? And like we said, the big auto companies utilize TV, movies, toys, even product placement to try and get you into their industries. It's like last night I was watching an old James Bond movie with my son, and as the evil guy from The Spy Who Loved Me looks at his camera at James Bond as he's coming into his underwater lair, he's looking straight down at a Sony television. Yeah, product placement, Sony, right there. This is how they get you. This is how they bring you in. And like our diecast love affair or Lego Speed Champions one, they kind of draw you in. I had a lot of friends that were never into vehicles until Gran Turismo came out. I had one friend who was, one of the smartest guys I ever met. Not really into vehicles. But when Gran Turismo came out, he was bent on getting some of those vehicles. He is still into that scene. He's not into it as much as me, but he still loves it. And he still knows a lot about the automobile industry. And when he has questions, he comes to me and asks me. But Gran Turismo got him into that. Forza can get you into that. Hell, even back in the day, games like Outrun and even the original Top Gears can get you into cars. Yes, Outrun. Everybody knows it was a Testarossa. That's what they were driving, and everybody wanted to drive it. Grand Theft Auto and the many, many different vehicles from the original one all the way up until Grand Theft Auto 5 today has many different variations of automobiles within it. There is an automotive aspect to that game, which draws you in, which can inspire people to getting into it. Now, I also know people that really started getting into automobiles when they got into books. I had a friend that thought he knew a lot about vehicles. He was kind of inspired, but he played with Hot Wheels. He was a collector, but he really got into it when he started getting magazines like Motor Trend and Car and Driver. It started seeing the industry in front of him. He immersed himself in it and started learning more about it. Myself, one of those inspirations, and one of the reasons why I like the Dodge Viper so much is because back in the day when the Viper first came out, it wasn't just one of those, right in your face vehicles that everybody around the world talked about and wanted. Dodge wanted to push it one step further and created their own television series, Viper, which centered around a crime-fighting Dodge Viper car with the team. Sound familiar? Kind of like Kit from Knight Rider, or the Ford Gran Torino from Starsky and Hutch. Or when I was a kid, one of the famous vehicles that got me right into vehicles and I thought was amazing, and I always wanted to know what the show was, but I never knew what it was until years later. But I knew the van. And just because I said I knew the van, everybody knows what I'm talking about. Everybody knows I'm talking about the 1984 GMC Vanzura from the A-Team. Now that is available through Playmobil. Now Playmobil Playmobil, as we could say, that inspired us to get into the automobile industry. We saw it, we wanted it, and we thought it was great. That GMC van was amazing. The show wasn't the world's greatest thing. And hell, even the movie, when they brought it out, wasn't the world's greatest thing. But pushing toys back into the mainstay of showing the A-Team van in Playmobil form could get new kids into it. My son wasn't really into James Bond. We watched a movie. He fell asleep through the new one at theaters, but he saw a bit of it. But now Playmobil has the Aston Martin DB5, and this kind of inspired him to get into the James Bond saga. He wants to see more about Bond and see more of his vehicles. Just like Gone in 60 Seconds, the original. How many people wanted a Mustang Mach 1? They wanted to do that. They drove them in. The Plymouth Fury from Christine. How many people today see a Plymouth Fury and not in the back of their head go, that's Christine? Or Cadillac Miller Meteor ambulance and not think it's the Ghostbusters car? Or any white Volkswagen Beetle is Herbie. It inspired us. It showed us, even if we're not in the automobile industry, it was a product placement that showed us the automobile industry could be fun. And it kind of got us into it. Like we said, television shows, books, toys, friends. Sometimes just seeing them out in the wild. Seeing them. When I was a kid, I would sit up. The second I hit the 400 between Barrie and Toronto, going down to see my grandparents down south, I would sit up in my seat and try and find every single Porsche, Mercedes, Ferrari, like any high-end car that I couldn't see in my home city. Because my home city, seeing a Mustang or a Corvette was kind of interesting to see. Because back then, there weren't a lot of people into exotic cars like that. Everybody owned standard vehicles, pickup trucks, or SUVs. A cool sports car wasn't it. Me, seeing a Chrysler Town and Country convertible. You remember what I'm talking about? The old LeBaron Town and Countries? The K car convertible. Seeing those, I thought was cool when I was a kid. It didn't inspire me to get into the industry, but it was an inspiration of, oh, that industry is pretty cool. I like convertibles. I like coupes. Inspiration can come from anywhere, any place, any facet, anyone. Sometimes it's family members. I see it all the time. I see it in my own family. How my father-in-law and my brother-in-law took my nephew, sat them on their knee, and watched hockey with them. They put it right in front of his eyes where he had no choice, so he got into it. Today he's into lacrosse, a form, the original form of hockey, but he's into it. Did it inspire him? It inspired him to get into lacrosse. Whereas my die-cast cars, along with seeing them in the real life, inspired me to see more. Seeing those exotics, that Lamborghini Countach, something I'd never seen out in the wild, in my hometown, anywhere, inspired me to get into this industry. And inspiration could come from the very beginning. And today we see that. You could see that with any facet. Let's look at McLaren for one quick second here. A 720S McLaren. A 720S McLaren can be seen by a child in die-cast form. It's a Hot Wheels. You can see it in a Lego form. You can see it in a Power Wheels form. An electric ride-on for you to drive around. But before that, your parents could push you around with a McLaren on the go. Hell, even before that, there are instances where Ferrari and Mercedes even have strollers to entice you into it. You can go out for a bike ride ridden behind a bike that's labeled as a Mercedes by your parents. You can have a Lamborghini-themed motorboat. You can ride in a Hyundai drone helicopter. Or be chased down by a 5-liter Mustang when your parent gets a speeding ticket. It's all there. And it all inspires us, no matter how it inspires you. Whether it's you downloading Rocket League on your Switch when you're 4 years old just to play soccer because your grandfather and your father are diehard soccer fans. And you want to play soccer, but you like cars. And you don't want to buy a soccer. Why? Because you don't have the money for it. And you find out you could download Rocket League for your Switch for free. It comes with these neat, amazing cars, and you get to play soccer with them. From there, you get inspired to start buying packages and getting further into it. You see where we're going from this? You develop your own form. My son has seen cars from a very young age. He's been to many car shows. He's been to the largest classic car show in Canada. The old Fleetwood Country Cruisin' that no longer exists. He's been to the Toronto Auto Show, the Montreal Auto Show, and countless cruise nights, import fests, speedoramas, even Detroit. He's not fully inspired into the automobile industry. He loves video games, but playing video games was his inspiration. I allowed him to play. He played some of my racing games, and then he played Mario and got into it. It inspired him into that industry. Whereas buying Forza and seeing your Hot Wheels car on the screen or your Lego Speed Racers car on the screen can inspire you to get into the automotive world. For a lot of us, back in the early 2000s, the original Fast and the Furious movie inspired so many of us to get into the aftermarket industry, and that's that's why it blew out of proportion. Before that, people were still tuning vehicles. Gotta remember, imports being tuned had been going on since the 80s. Only in 2001, when Fast and Furious came out, did that industry explode. When everybody saw what went into making those cars, all the parts, all the racing, all the paint, all the things you can do with a standard vehicle to make it better. Before that, we were watching cartoons of Speed Racer and Transformers. Our parents sat down and watched Gone in 60 Seconds with us. And those slight occasions, we might catch the end of the A-Team. And occasionally, our father or mother might get pulled over by a police car. Wherever facet and wherever you got your inspiration from it, the automobile industry is there. It's in every facet of your life to inspire you. How you got inspired and who helped you get inspired is up to you. Whether it was pushed upon you by someone in your family or a friend, or you just fell in love the first time you laid eyes on a classic in a parking lot, something inspired you. I have been inspired many times, many different ways. That's why I dove into nearly every facet of the automobile industry, from designing parts to entire cars, to rating them, podcasting about them, and even building and racing them. Every single time I get inspired, I do something new. And that's like a lot of people out there. Our inspiration drives us, and it drives us forward. Inspiration is what gives us the fuel to keep going. We all need to be inspired, but it's all a matter of how you got inspired to get into this industry to love vehicles. You don't have to love everything about it. Some people just love the technology that comes with it, the paint colors, the smell of the engine, the roar of that power, or how it gets us around. Inspiration can come from anywhere. Sitting on your park bench watching a cruise mobile pickup come by and pick you up and bring you to school may be your inspiration of the future. Or it could be when a rallycross race finally shows up in your hometown to go flying across the back roads. Inspiration has many forms and comes from many different sources. For myself, my inspiration originally started with die-cast cars. My father helped push it along through bringing me to a car show, and then a poster for my brother cemented the deal of automobiles being what I love and what has inspired me to do what I love. So what inspires you? Tell us about it. Write in the comments. Send us some feedback on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, hell, even go on Pinterest. Send us some feedback. Something inspires us. A piece of art, a hunk of steel, a conversation. It all becomes inspiration. So what inspired you? I've told you what inspired me, so now tell me what inspires you. So in the end, as we said, inspiration can come from many different sources. It can come from television shows, to toys, to video games, to family members, and even real life occurrences. Inspiration comes from anywhere. So what, if anything, inspired you in your love affair with the automobile? Tell us. Head on over to our website, AutoLooks.net, and put a comment down. Or send us a comment on one of our many host sites for our podcast: Podbean, iTunes, Spotify, Amazon Music, Google Play. We're on it all. Check us out. And after you leave us a comment, check out the site to see more about the automobile industry and how we bring it together, from our calendar of pinnacle moments to our corporate's website page, which helps you find websites from every major car company around the world, inclusive of some fun pages as well. 3D Studio allows you to build your own automobile, gives you the workings that Need for Speed Underground first gave us. All along our help and fun pages, AutoLooks.net brings it all to you. So, if you like this podcast, please like, share, or comment, and tell us what has inspired you within the automobile world as you strap yourself in for this one fun, wild ride of inspiration.